Buongiorno and good morning on a very special day for the 2019 International GT Open here at the Autodromo Nazionale Monza. The season finale, the last race of the 2019 season, takes place today. We've got qualifying this morning to set the grid, and it is a big day because there is not only the overall title to settle, but there are Pro-Am and Am-Class titles all to settle, and it couldn't be more exciting. It's going to be a very tense affair today, as we see cars already trying to fight for real estate in this 30-minute qualifying session to set the grid for the final race of this incredible year. Scott Woodward is here to guide you through all the action. We're on board with Enrique Chavez and the number 59 Teo Martin Motorsport McLaren. This is one of our two main onboard cameras in this weekend. The other is with the championship leaders, which is number 63. This is the 59 McLaren, but the other car, which we have on board cameras with, is the number 63 Emil Frey Racing Lamborghini Huracan, with Giacomo Altoe, who qualifies the car this morning, and Albert Costa, who put that car on pole position in the first session. So, in terms of what happened yesterday, it was a victory for, a long overdue one in fact, for the SPS Automotive squad of Miguel Ramos and Fabrizio Crestani. So Fabrizio winning at home, and the German team certainly very happy with that performance, but they did so after Anthony Motorsport, for the second weekend in a row, had their on-track victory taken away thanks to a penalty. It was a time penalty that they were given at Barcelona for using too much curb and making that incredible last lap pass on the Teo Martin McLaren of Andres Sarabia and Fran Rueda, so they managed to pick up second place. But then yesterday it was, I believe, a pit stop infringement. It must have been for their pit stop being 5 seconds too slow, because that 5 seconds then put them behind. But they only finished ahead of by about 4.6 seconds or so, which wasn't enough to give them. So whilst the timing sheet says that they won the race by less than 4/10, SPS were actually around about 4.3 behind at the flag in many cases, or 4.7. So it wasn't enough to extend it. It had to be a 5-second gap or more to do that. So Antonelli Motorsport once again had to settle for second place, and Optum Motorsport put in a great performance yesterday to collect third. A great opening stint by Darren Turner. Then saw him hand the car over to Ollie Wilkinson, and he had to hold off the championship contenders for the rest of the race. So there's the points coming into today. It's not quite done yet for Albert Costa and Giacomo Altoe. It's a 14-point gap, 120 points for Costa and Altoe, 106 to their teammates, Michael Grenier and Norbert Siedler, and Fran Rueda are now backed by 19 points. That means that effectively they're out of the title race. It is now between the two Emil Frey Lamborghinis to win this championship. All Costa and Altoe need to do is effectively score a point. That's it. Because if they non-finish, and Siedler and Grenier obviously pick up a victory, that will effectively give them the title by 1 point. So they need to make sure that Costa and Altoe need to just score a point, effectively, to make sure that they do not lose out on the title. Because even if they tie with their teammates, they will win on countback of race wins, because they've had 5 for the season this year. This is Giacomo Altoe's view at one of his home circuits here in Italy, and how much would he love to secure the title at, effectively, as a driver, his home event here at Monza, as he goes on to set his first flying lap. So we should talk about, whilst we're looking at the championship standings, of course we've also got the pro classes, effectively these guys at the front here, which is the same battle between Grenier and Siedler in second place, and Ramos and Costa and Altoe in front. Then we look back to what happening in the Pro-Am category, where there were some very interesting developments yesterday, particularly when we saw that there was a collision between the Alam Coder and Marcelo Han McLaren, and it actually tagged the then championship leaders, the second SPS automotive car of Valentin Pierberg, who was at the wheel at the time, and Tom Onslow Cole from the UK. They actually ended up having to come home in, if I give you the result, they came home in 17th place and 2 laps down on the leader, because their car got stuck in the gravel, and so they had to get their car snatched in order to bring it back out again. And what that's done to the Pro-Am standing is that Frederick Schandorf now leads the way, but he only leads by 3 points. There's a real possibility that if results possibly work out their way, really what needs to happen is, looking at it, is that given the amount of points that you get for a victory, what happens really is that Alonso Cole and Pierberg need to win, and they need Frederick Schandorf, forgive me, it's early in the morning, Frederick Schandorf to effectively finish third. If he finishes second or wins, that's the title for Vincenzo Sospiri Racing. If he's third, effectively, Onzo and Colin Pierberg can still be champions, but they have to win the race in Pro-Am, have to win the class. In the AM category, it's Giuseppe Cipriani, who is also just ahead, only just by 2 points of Alexander Hlakavina and Martin Conrad in their Mercedes, so it's an all-Mercedes duel for them. And again, given the fact that it's 5 points for a win and 4 for second place, there's a possibility that they could snatch the title, but again, it would mean that Hlakavina and Conrad need to win the race, and Cipriani needs to be third or lower to do that, because of course, again, on countback, so they're actually looking at it on countback, really, in terms of race, actually, in many cases, second place might actually be enough, because if they tie on points, Hlakavina and Conrad actually have a lot more victories. They've got, if I'm correct, they've got 6 victories this year, whilst Cipriani only has 2. So in many cases, it can still go to Hlakavina and Conrad. So even if they finish second, so it can still change. Obviously, if Cipriani finishes ahead of Hlakavina and Conrad, he's the champion. But if they can basically pick up a victory, and if they tie on points, it can still be a result for them. So really what they need to do is they need to make sure, if I'm correct, just trying to calculate this in my head using my GCSE maths, it needs to be, yeah, basically, for Hlakavina and Cipriani to win this, they need to win, and Cipriani needs to be third or lower, because even if he's third and they tie on points, it will be the title for the Austrian duo in the bright yellow Mann-Filter-sponsored Mercedes. So that's me trying to work out the title connotations and all the classes in my head. I probably got one of those wrong, but God likes to try it. So anyway, moving back to the qualifying sessions so far, we've already had around about 8 minutes gone, and Michael Grenier has crucially put the number 14 Lamborghini, which you're seeing on screen here, onto provisional pole, 146.518. Remember, for this qualifying session, it's the designated second drivers that will qualify the car and then start the race. And then in the mandatory pit stop window, it'll then be the designated first drivers that will take over. And from there, they will run the car to the end of the race. So out of the Rogers chicane, it comes Grenier. Altoe is second quickest. Then we've got third quickest for Enrique Chavez in the former title contending Teo Martin McLaren, because they were second and had a decent start, but then just after the Resafina chicane, the sort of front panel that covers up what you'd normally call a bonnet on the car, but these cars are mid-engined, flew off, and because of that, it not only sort of seems to damage the radiator, but it also meant that they were down on the speed aerodynamically, because obviously there was quite a bit of wind resistance as a result. So they eventually had to retire the car, and sadly that put an end to their championship chances. And of course, looking at the point standings, effectively, unfortunately, the other McLaren of Fran Reda and Andres Sarabia looks to be out of it, because they are more than 15 points away. So unfortunately, they are not getting potential for that anymore, as far as I'm aware. It is just between the two Emil Frey cars now to win the title. And Costa and Altoe just need a single point, as we mentioned, whereas Grenier, effectively, they need to go all out, and they need to make sure that they can. But what needs to happen for them is they need to win and hope that something happens. In order for them to become champions, something needs to happen to Altoe and Costa to not score. I doubt there's going to be a similar situation that we had back at Barcelona, where they were really off the pace of mixed conditions and ended up finishing 11th place, which means they're outside the top 10 point scoring. That would be quite an extreme scenario, but let's just wait and see how this all plays out. Now, crucially, just behind the top 3, Tom Onslow Cole has put the number 20 Pro-Am leading SPS Automotive Mercedes into 4th fastest, quicker, in fact, even than Miguel Ramos, who has only done 2 flying laps. So he's back down at the bottom of the times. Also, back into 4th now with their effort that just gone across, is one of our 2 guest cars this weekend, and that's the 31 Fricadelli Racing Porsche. And Klaus Abelin is driving that car with the man who's currently behind the wheel, which is former Porsche Carrera Cup Germany champion turned Porsche Junior, Thomas Preening. So good to see Thomas this weekend, and good to see a Porsche back in the championship as well. And they are assessing options for next year. International GT Open is one of them, so hopefully we will see them in the field, and they could potentially be the second Porsche, because we do have one coming in next year with Nicky Luttweiler, who TFT Racing, of course, both running GT Cup Open and are contending for the title in that contest as well. Here's Ollie Wilkinson, 8th fastest at the moment, but there's a fastest first sector, personal best middle sector, and that's Aston Martin Vantage with its thumping V8 in the front. Looks fantastic, and it sounds great as well. It's a beautiful car. And of course, Ollie Wilkinson has already tasted title success in some aspect this year, because he is, along with Bradley Ellis, the Silver Cup champion in British GT. That's exactly the same car, so multi-purpose as is GT3. Across the line comes Wilkinson. He's currently 8th. He goes with that effort up to 5th. Good run for the Aston Martin. P5. It's almost 9/10 off provisional pole. Also up there as well, quite crucially, in 7th quickest is Martin Conrad, the top AM class car, quite crucially. And that's really going to help them in terms of their chances for the AM class title. Into the fastest time now goes Enrique Chavez, then gets duped by Giacomo Toei. And there's only half a tenth in it, as we see the 16 McLaren of Alain Coder showing with Marcelo Han, and they got into a little bit of trouble yesterday. A drive-through penalty for the collision caused by Marcelo when he was at the wheel in the first part of the stint, when he tagged the rear of Valentin Pierberg's car. Tom Onslow Cole goes up to 4th quickest. Alain Coder, with that effort, actually goes fastest. So he was fastest in free practice yesterday, and looks as though that Alain Coder really finding a bit of pace, and that number 16 McLaren is not really being helped by the spirit of race Ferrari in front of him. That will be Duncan Cameron getting in his way. That might have ruined his lap to try and go even quicker, but even so, he is currently fastest then, 146.112, and of course, not in contention for the championship, and that certainly will mean that he's in up there. Of course, he's the top Pro-Am car as well, because he's obviously the fastest of the session. So, Pro-Am at the moment sees Alain Coder on that class pole. Second fastest in Pro-Am is Tom Onslow Cole in the SPS Mercedes. And then we have Thomas Preening in 4th fastest in that class, but remember, he and the other guest car that we have, which we'll mention in a second, don't score any points, so they're not registered for points here, so it doesn't matter where they finish, because those behind them will still pick up the points they would have done had he not been there. So that means that the 31 car of Thomas Preening and Klaus Arbelen, and also the second Spirit of Race Ferrari, which has Osvaldo Negri, who of course is a veteran Brazilian racer, first in junior single-seaters, and then a long time over in America, or in North America mainly, in sports cars. He's here for this weekend, and he shares that car with Francesco Piervanetti, who is now showing, what was American, he's now showing as being from, I can't quite tell exactly which nationality he's from there with that flag, but I think he's possibly half American nationality, as we come into the right-hander Parabolica. Alain Coder is probably going to wind up for another lap here. It's still got plenty of the session to go, more than half of it left. Just getting a small slipstream from his teammate on the pit straight, as Fran Moreda puts the number 17 McLaren up to 7th fastest. So we said that the McLarens were looking quick this weekend, not just in GT Open, also looking decent in GT Cup Open as well, with their 570 sort of younger smaller counterparts. But 1st, 3rd and 5th for the McLaren so far, and this is a car that really is only the first year they've had it at TM Martin Motorsport, so of course there'll be plenty of work over the winter to develop these cars further and to really hit the sweet spot with them, and they should be a force to be reckoned with next year in GT Open, should they make an appearance. I'm confident they will. Given the fact that they are very quick, it will certainly be a sight to watch. Giacomo Toei's brought the number 63 championship leading Emil Frey Racing Lamborghini into the pit lane. There's a couple of cars in pit lane, everyone else is out there trying to set times. Anyone down the order who is lower than they should be, if I have a quick scan down. Two of the Mercedes from yesterday, which effectively finished in the top 2, a bit lower than they should be. Miguel Ramos is currently 12th fastest, Riccardo Agostini 13th. And of course, the first part of that stint yesterday was headed up by their co-drivers. So Loris Spinelli in the Antonelli Motorsport car and the SPS Mercedes driven by Fabrizio Crestani. I'm sure that when they jump in for the second half of the race, it will certainly be quite a thing to watch out for. So Fran Moreda, fastest middle sector according to the screen here. He was just off, but it was a personal best first sector for them as well. And just fractionally faster in the middle sector is also Alain Coder as well. So good run so far for the McLarens. Up towards the timing line come Moreda and Coder consecutively. Moreda goes across and goes 3rd fastest. Coder goes across the line and does not improve, but he's only about 700ths off the fastest time of the session. So looking good so far for the McLarens. Now 1st, 3rd and 4th. And it is the two predominantly white McLarens with the different colours. Of course, this one with the orange and blue graphics and the other one with the predominantly dark blue graphics on the white McLaren. they are the two cars that split both of the Emil Frey Racing Lamborghinis, because Giacomo Altoe is second quickest and Michael Grenier is currently fifth. And Thomas Cole is a few tenths off in sixth position, but still at the moment leading. Well, he was leading the Pro-Am, he's not on Pro-Am pole, but he's currently ahead of where he needs to be, ahead of Thomas Tuchel in the number 66 Vincenzo Sospiri Racing Lamborghini. And looking at time-wise, time difference, Thomas Cole's about 6 tenths quicker. Now, Riccardo Agostini just popped up to 6th quickest, so car number 6 in position number 6. Agostini puts in a 146.878 to put himself just over 3/4 of a second better off the current provisional pole time. And how much of a coup would that be for the Adam Coder car to get up there? It has found quite a bit of pace in the last few weekends. Here is the VSR Lamborghini with Thomas Tuchel, the Finnish driver at the wheel. Just under 15 minutes to go in this session. We're in the second half of it now. It looks like it's the end of the day, doesn't it? But of course it is first thing in the morning here. It's roughly around about 20 past 10 local time here at Monza in Italy, just outside of Milan. Fran Moreda with, again, a very quick middle sector. Across the line he'll go. Can he get even quicker this time by? Can he put it on the front row? Not quite, still stays third. And Adam Coder, I think, without the benefit of a tow, although he is loosely just behind his teammate, but not quite there to benefit that much. Keeping in form. So they are beautiful looking cars, these McLarens. They're stunning looking cars. They're very aerodynamically efficient. They've got quite a lot of punch in a straight line as well. They really are a great package. And of course we haven't seen them too much elsewhere. There has been one competing in the British GT Championship, which finally took its first victory of the season a few weeks ago at the season finale at Donington Park with Balfe Motorsport, who have been competitors in this championship before in the days of the 650S. But the 720, of course, it's relatively new, only came in the last couple of seasons. And of course, Teo Martin, one of the first few customers who are just learning the nuances of this car, but it does prove that in the right hands, it is quite a formidable machine. This is a slow-mo of Thomas Tuchel working away at the wheel through the Rettifilio chicane. Just see him through the windscreen there. Hands firmly clasping the wheel. And we're looking here now at number 19. This is the Raton Racing by Target Lamborghini, Jiatong Liang, who is back in 19th at the moment, at bottom of the Pro-Am standings. He's got some work to do. He's currently tailing Duncan Cameron in the Spirit of Race Ferrari. And of course, anyone that tells you about Italian motorsport will know that obviously Ferrari is very special to Italian motor racing fans, or the Tifosi, as they're known. I'm sure there'll be a few here to cheer on the Ferraris that are racing in GT Open. But of course, I'm sure there'll be some Lamborghini fans as well. There's plenty in the field. Of course, including the two title contending cars for Emil Frey Racing. So lots of interest for Italian manufacturers here, both Ferrari and Lamborghini. And also there's a couple of Italian teams as well. Of course, we've got Antonelli Motorsport running their Mercedes as well. So all sorts going on this weekend for Italian racing fans as Jiatong Liang brings the Raton Racing by Target Lamborghini out of Parabolica and onto the pit straight, still keeping Duncan Cameron in his sights. Duncan Cameron goes across the line, doesn't improve on 15th place. And Jiatong Liang, I think, possibly was winding up for, looks like it was a lap out of the pit. So he will be getting ready to set a fast lap as Duncan Cameron makes his way through the Rettifilio chicane and back onto another flyer to see if he can improve on what is currently 15th fastest. And at the moment, about 6th in the Pro-Am category. This is the onboard with the 59 Enrique Chavez. Let's just go silent and listen for a second. to stay quiet for that bit because I thought you wanted to hear the that beautiful McLaren V8, of course, in the back of that car. So nice bit of onboard shot there for Enrique Chavez. I thought if I talked over it, it would rather ruin it. So I think everyone loves a bit of raw engine sound rather than someone talking over it. So they're currently pushing on and are going to try and put themselves higher than fourth for the grid if they can. Here is our championship leaders with Giacomo Altoe at the wheel. Just behind there is the Ombra Racing car with Naji Razak at the wheel. Thomas Tuchel, crucially, has gone to second fastest in the Pro-Am standings and 7th overall, just ahead of Tom Onslow Cole. So if that stays there provisionally, both of the Pro-Am contenders will be on the 4th row together on the front row of the Pro-Am class. Well, not front row of the Pro-Am class because they'll be 2nd and 3rd, because Alam Coder's car, currently, of course, has the fastest time of not only Pro-Am, but indeed of the session, 146.112, as Giacomo Altoe brings the points leading car. There's your Pro-Am and Am standing. So Altoe on Pro Pole, with Moreda, Chavez, Grenier and Agostini rounding up the top 5 for that. Then it's Coder on Pro-Am pole from Tuchel, Onslow Cole, Thomas Preening and the Alberto Di Folco number 90 Mercedes. And then it's Martin Conrad, Di Folco in a Lamborghini, pardon me. And then in Am category, it is Conrad in the Mercedes from Osvaldo Negri in the Ferrari. Then Martinez, Cipriani, Cucrucci is back down in 4th place. And Luis Silva in the Mercedes, rounding out 5th place in the Am class. There are only 5 cars in Am class, so that's the bottom of the Am grid. It's just over 8 minutes to go. A few more cars heading back out of pit lane. Let's see what Giacomo Altoe has to possibly try and get himself a little higher up the order now. As Altoe heads to the end of sector 1, there's a 34.1 as he approaches the Roger chicane, heads out of it, and now on the sprint towards the right-hander at Malesmos. So he's got to find a fraction under a tenth of a second, which sometimes when you get cars that are fairly evenly matched, it's not an easy thing to do. Once you're right on the limit, the quicker you go, the less time there is to find, because when you're starting to find your groove, you're starting to get quicker, you start to find initially, if you're really first starting out, you start to find seconds, then you start to find several tenths, then just a few tenths, then a couple, and you start getting to hundredths and then thousandths. And when you start to get the hundredths and then thousandths of a second, that's when it gets tricky, because of course you're only making micro improvements on your times. So you have to be ultra precise and making just micro corrections and just little tweaks to your driving style. You brake just a fraction later, you sort of get on the power a fraction later, you're a little bit smoother on your turn-in, a little earlier, a little later on the turn-in on the throttle or on the brake. Just, it's all very much about precision, of course, in motorsport, particularly when you've got a car like this. Now, Alam Coder, whilst we're watching Giacomo Altoe, who'll finish his lap in a second, has just set the fastest first sector of anyone else. So that McLaren is still working beautifully as Altoe comes across the line, and he stays second, but he's improved his time to be within 17 thousandths of a second. So Altoe's car is on good pace with the fastest final sector of the session so far. 6.5 minutes to go, and Altoe, I think now he's warmed himself up with a pretty quick lap. Now he's going to go for it. There is Coder as he comes underneath the old circuit, up towards Ascari, and he's up again by almost 0.3 of a second. This is a cracking lap from Alam Coder as he comes out through Ascari. So let's watch this one as he comes out onto the back straight towards Parabolica. Nice and clean and tidy exit. He has got some traffic in front. He's got 2 Mercedes that are almost going side by side. And that's Luis Silva trying to get past Tom Onslow Cole to find some clear track. And into the Parabolica he goes. He's not going to have too much trouble, I don't think, and he gets kind of take a second bite at the apex there, but he'll get a tow from Tom Onslow Cole, which will certainly help him, quite ironically. Goes towards the line. I think Tom Onslow Cole's backing off not to give him too much. Across the line goes Coder, and he'll improve his time. He's now cleared by almost 4 tenths. 1:45.702 puts Alam Coder even further in provisional pole position, and it puts him over 4 tenths clear of the championship leaders, Giacomo Altoe and Albert Costa. And of course that puts them by far and away on Pro-Am pole by an incredible 1.3 seconds. So that is Alam Coder laying down the benchmark, not just to his class, but to everyone else, saying, come on, boys, come and beat that. Now, looking at times, also, we've had a couple of times deleted. Cars 31 and 99 have had times deleted. The 31 is the Thomas Preening Fricadelli Porsche. Also, a 99 car is the Sports and New Mercedes with Luis Silva at the wheel. Both of them have had them cut for track limits. Now watching the Lamborghinis here. That's the Lazarus Racing Lamborghini in front of Michael Grenier, who's 5th, but he is getting a tow from his fellow Huracan. That will certainly help. But Coder's going faster again. Look at that at the bottom of the screen. He's half a tenth up again in the first sector, which is incredible. Michael Grenier, meanwhile, has set a personal fastest middle sector. Chavez has gone second fastest. Fran Moreda goes third. So it's all three McLarens at the first three positions. As now Michael Grenier goes to second fastest and splits that party, using that fantastic toe from the Lazarus racing car. Now he pulls out and should take his line into the chicane, which he does. Very bumping spot under brakes. And just about gets it anchored up into the first chicane at the Rettifilio. So this is looking good for Michael Grenier, but Giacomo Altori, though, he's back in fifth, and he's got some work to do. Riccardo Agostini's up to sixth in the last few efforts. Looking at time-wise, Alain Cordair has dropped back a tiny bit in the second sector, but it was a really strong sector one for the McLaren. Car 90, which is Alberto Di Folco in the second of the two Raton Racing Lamborghinis. He's the fastest of the two because he's up there in 10th position, but his 152.406 time has been deleted for track limits at turn 11, and his next time will also be deleted. There it is, and it's just in front of one of the McLarens. That's the Fran Moreda car, who is running well, but getting held up behind the Lamborghini might not help. He'll get some recompensation in the form of a tow down the back straight towards Ascari. Look at the second sector. Yeah, he's off by 4/10. So that's the time he lost, stuck behind the Lamborghini on that lap. Michael Grenier, though, is flying. Fastest first sector, fastest middle sector. It's not by much. It's only 0.08 of a second, but that's what we talked about. When you get to the fastest sharp end of the field, trying to find more time, it only comes in a tenth or two, or a few hundredths, or a few thousandths. As you get quicker and quicker, faster and faster time, better time, it's harder to find. When you're first starting out to find more time, it's easy because you're taking chunks out of your fastest time. Then you start to get to the point where you're slowly refining it bit by bit. So Moreda comes across the line and stays fourth. What about Grenier? Does he go provisional pole? Across the line he goes. Yes, he does. Michael Grenier puts number 14 Emil Frey Racing Lamborghini onto provisional pole, but only by 31 thousandths of a second, 145.578. That's crucial for his efforts for the title, particularly with his teammate Giacomo Altori back in fifth. Although their squad know they only need a point to secure the title, because of course these guys can only win it really if they win, and in whatever circumstance, for whatever reason, there's a retirement. Well, there's a car off in the barriers, and that's Ollie Wilkinson in the Optimum Motorsport Aston Martin. Oh dear, that's right up against the wall, and I think that looks like it's obviously slid off the road. Now, where that is, I'm not quite sure, actually. It's quite tough to see. Unless we get a replay, I have to be honest, I'm not quite sure where that is. It could be the exit of Ascari. It is the exit of Ascari, so just loses it in the middle part of the corner, sideways off the road. Oh, that's taken a whack into the barrier, that has. But thankfully, the tyres absorb most of the impact, so I think a saving grace for Optimum should be there. It looks to be visibly not too much damage, because the tyres seem to absorb most of that. There is only 1 minute 45 left to go in the session, and we've called a red flag because of that. I'm not particularly surprised, and I think that will be a session called to a finish with a checkered flag, because the red flag means that that car is in a dangerous position. It is pretty fast, and that means that the Emil Frey Racing Squad will once again be on pole position by the looks of it, but it means that the other car that's fighting for the championship, that car right there with Michael Grenier at the wheel, the Canadian, has stuck it on pole position. And between him and his teammate Giacomo Altori provisionally, there are 3 very quick McLarens from Teo Martin Motorsport. But there in slow-mo is your provisional pole sitter, Michael Grenier, who will hand over to Norbert Seidler in the second half of the race. But they know that, and so do Giacomo Altori and Albert Costa, that they just need 1 point from today's final race to go ahead and seal up the 2019 title in the pro standings and overall for Emil Frey Racing. I think they celebrated a bit too prematurely yesterday, but I did get confirmation from somebody who was working on with Lamborghini Squadra Corsa on their press team that they haven't quite wrapped it up just yet. I think they sort of celebrated a bit too prematurely, and then I realised that they've got to do. So yeah, there's a confirmation. Session will not restart because there's only about 1 minute and 47 to go. But celebrations all round once again for Emil Frey, but it's the other side of the garage that are celebrating this time. It is pole position for number 14 Emil Frey car. Michael Grenier with a brilliant lap to put him and Norbert Seidler on pole position for the final time in 2019. So here's confirmation of the result then. Michael Grenier on provisional pole, then 3 McLarens between him and his teammate. Enrique Chavez second, Alain Cordair third, and Fran Moreda in 4th place. Giacomo Altori will have to start the points leading car from 5th. It is second place, and crucially, it's second place in Pro-Am and 6th overall for Tom Enzo Cole, 7th for Riccardo Agostini after that car won on the road yesterday. Ollie Wilkinson, despite ending the session in the barriers, will start 8th. Thomas Tuchler, who's battling for the Pro-Am title, starts 9th. And Martin Conrad, crucially for him, starts the 25 HTP Motorsport car on pole for Am, back in 10th overall. They're ahead of their main championship rivals, Giuseppe Cipriani, who is back further down the grid when we get to the second page of times in a second. 11th place has gone to Miguel Ramos, so they've got some work to do after taking the win yesterday, picking it up from the penalty yesterday. And looking at the time spread, it's very close at the top. 6 cars at the top 6, separated by less than a second. 11th place for Miguel Ramos and the SPS Mercedes. Alberto Di Folco and the Raton Racing by Target car. He's the best of those 2 cars in 12th. Thomas Preening starts 13th. Osvaldo Negri is in 14th place, and he's 2nd place in Am. Then Naji Razak, Giuseppe Cipriani, Eliseo Martinez, Jaiton Liang, Duncan Cameron disappointed with 19th, and Lewis Silva rounding out the top 20. And we should have an interview very shortly with our pole sitters. In fact, we can go down now. Alfredo has Mikel and Norbert down there. Your pole sitters for race 1.
Michael Grenier, pole position for the last race. Quite a nice thing, quite a nice final lap.
Yeah, it was all right. I knew the car was good in the first stint already. So when we did the change of tires, I told them not to change anything. Normally from both sets of tires, we always make some change, but now I knew I could do the pole with this. That I had time in myself, and then just put everything together in the end. Car was amazing. Albert had the pole yesterday, so we showed that Lamborghini is a really quick car, that the team's doing a really good job, and I'm really happy for this last race.
And what can happen in this last race?
Now, it's still possible for us to win if we win the race and our teammate doesn't finish, but we do not wish them any bad luck. So I would say first and second in driver championship would be ideal for us, as the team has won the team championship already, and we're working as a team here. So yeah, we will push, and then we will see.
It will be interesting to watch. For the time being, well done.
Thank you.
So, a fascinating title battle in prospect for later on this afternoon, and that concludes action from qualifying this morning. So, it is head-to-head for Emil Frey Racing. Is it going to be Grenier and Seidler, or points leaders Giacomo Towe and Albert Costa who win? Find out later on this afternoon. The thrilling season finale of the International GT Open Championship for 2019 comes up here at Monza this afternoon. But from all of us here for Italy for the time being, from myself, Scott Woodward, and all of us in GT Open, thanks for watching. Don't miss the finale later on this afternoon. Bye for now.